earlier, Alex, we discussed the general ideas of chancification. I want to dig into the tools a little more, the open standard that makes it all work. And of course, I do want to reinforce how serious the errors can be when you get this wrong. And I think I'll start with actually an example in military planning. So
something very topical right now in
It
Europe.
is indeed. It is indeed
horrible, absolutely horrible, and very relevant to our conference today. And by the way, if you haven't watched the session in the morning with Sam, the first session in the morning with Sam, do watch it, because it kind of do watch the replay. It gives a nice kind of leeway into the practical application that we will talk about now, because we've discussed at least 3 very important hypotheses and some of the excuses businesses usually use to ignore uncertainty, and the other side of the coin, that in fact businesses should and can embrace uncertainty in decision making.
So what I'm going to show you is a poster child for the flaw of averages in military readiness. This is actually taught at the famous Naval Postgraduate School in the United States as an example of this terrible reasoning. So Operation Eagle Claw was a mission in 1980 to rescue the hostages at the U.S. Embassy in Tehran. And the short version is the helicopters were 75% reliable. That is, you don't expect them to run for the whole mission, right? They needed 6 for the mission. So the analyst said, well, send 8, because 75% of 8 is 6. And the good news is, on average, they would have had 6 helicopters. Yeah, but that did not address the chance that they wouldn't have at least 6. And my gosh, ironically, that's average-based readiness, right? The bad news is, in the 17th century, the mathematician Jacob Bernoulli discovered the binomial distribution, which he'd never heard of helicopters, but he could have told them there was 1 chance in 3 that they wouldn't have enough 300 years earlier. Okay, let's do Eagle Claw today. So I've got my file. This little file, it's an Excel file, it has one lousy formula in it. First of all, like we think, here's our mission length, 5.5 hours. Okay, great. Here's the average flight time to failure of a helicopter, the average. One formula, the whole darn thing is basically count how many helicopters you have that have flown longer than 5.5 hours, right, in a given simulation. And by the way, right now, we're only picking 8 because that's how many they sent, right? Just see what happens here. Like, suppose the first one only flew for 5 hours. Well, we got a little conditional formatting here. Okay, that's an X. It's not there. Got it. Okay, so the first thing is, and I'm going to allow us to send up to 12. So now I'm going to run back to the little website. This stuff could be stored in the cloud anywhere. It's just data, and it's small data these days as well. It's not huge amounts of data. So I'm going to right click on this little library, the helicopter performance. I'm going to copy the link. I go back here. I bring up Chance Calc, and I say, use whatever uncertainty data is in your clipboard. It says, okay, I got how long each of 12 helicopters is going to fly. And so I'll select those. And now, as we discussed in the first session, where are we? We're not in Kansas anymore. We're now in a Rick and Morty cartoon or a Doctor Strange multiverse or something, where that could happen, or that could happen, or that could happen, or that could happen. And the question now is, and let me shrink this down. The question, oops, a little too far. So the question now is, what's the chance that the total finishing the mission, again, that's just the count if, what's the chance that that number is less than 6, which is a number we really, really need? And so I click the, mind you, I mean, if you use Excel, you could do this, right? I had to click one button. I used to study computational complexity. That's what my PhD is in. Yeah, well, the new computational complexity is how many new buttons do you have to learn? 2, 1 button, get the zip library. 2nd button, chance of whatever. And so I want to know the chance that the total finishing bears that relationship to the number that I need, which is 6. And oh, there it is, just like Bernoulli predicted, 34%. Okay, so now look how much work it is. Remember, I just done the count if of over 8 helicopters, right? So let me just drag this down, right? This is just an Excel formula. I'm just going to drag the range down. Let's go to, say, 11 helicopters. What would that do for us? Oh, 4%. So, you know, the irony here is in 2015, Jimmy Carter was asked what he would have done differently about his presidency, right? And he said, I would have sent 1 more helicopter to rescue the hostages, and we would have got them back, and I would have had a 2nd term as president, right? These things actually have pretty big implications. Okay, so now let's talk about if you were going to industrialize this. That is to say, if you recall from the first session, people are taking perfectly good distributions of uncertainties and they're flushing them down the toilet. What a shame, okay? So let me show you, we're working towards a mass production way of handling this problem. So I have not talked about the actual format of the data, which is really quite remarkable. And this is the stuff that uses Doug Hubbard's random number generator and Tom Keelan's metal log distribution. But let me show you what a user can do. And now let's start with that case where you have no data, but you have pretty smart experts. All right. So I'm looking at 2 products, the demand for 2 separate products. So I'm going to say, look, I got 2 variables here, and I have an expert. So I've got 2 separate products, and I've got an expert or a group of experts who've got an idea of what demand is going to be. So let's start with demand 1 is my first variable. And I'm going to say, look, I'm just going to do a very simple estimate. 10% of the time, demand is going to be greater than 100. 50% of the time, the demand is going to be greater than 200. And 90% of the time, I mean, less than, these are less thans. 10% it's less than 100, 50% chance it's less than 200, 90% it's less than 400. And oh, now, look, I've got a distribution over here. All right, whoa. Oh, but wait a second. It can't go less than 0, for gosh sakes. Okay, so I'm going to run down here. I'm going to say, actually, this is a simple lower bounded variable. It's just like you can't go less than 0. Thank you very much. And then I'm going to say, let's go to the next variable. So the next variable, I'm going to call demand 2. I got 2 of these products. So here's demand 2. And it looks a little different. Again, 10% chance it's less than 100. And a 50% chance it's less than 300. And a 90% chance it's less than, say, 450. So this distribution is skewed in the other direction. Oh yeah, but it can't go negative. And so let's go down here and say, no, you can't have a negative demand. And so it's got some really weird looking distribution.
But this is just the mechanics of it. This is like mind-blowing stuff. With minimal input, you can generate a distribution, the uncertainty distribution, that you can then just take and plug into any kind of model, any kind of decision-making model. I mean, this is amazing.
Exactly. And you know, Alex, we're doing this by hand, but you could have machine learning doing this stuff for you. I've been involved in projects where we use machine learning to determine these things. So let me run down here now, and I'm going to go to output options. So the file name is going to be called demand forecast. The author, that's going to be me, my initials. Independent? No, they're not independent. They're correlated. And I already know that these two products, because we've had similar products in the past, it's like selling shoes and socks or something, you know, their correlation coefficient is like 0.6. So now I go down here and I say convert to a SIP library. This is now JSON. The entire SIP library is that long. This is all there is to it, just a little code. And what I'm going to do is, I think I'll download the library first. I'm going to download it. I'm going to save it as Alex demand forecast. I've got another one called forecast up here. That's the one you sent me. We'll take a look at it in a second. But I'm going to save this one as demand forecast. And I can then load that, or let's just convert it again for fun, okay? And then I can take this directly from the website. I click on that little copy clipboard thing. I head over to Excel. Let's just do a blank workbook in Excel. Chance Calc. I'll take whatever's on the clipboard. And so it's demand 1 and demand 2, and I will put their names on the left here. There they are. I remember what they looked like. Who could forget those little faces? Right?
Wow, wow.
And by the way, I want to point out, you know who Frontline Systems is, right? They're like the premier spreadsheet analytics company. And their analytics solver supports the same 3.0 standard. So you could do an analytics solver model to generate these. Or if you generated them some other way, you could send them to analytics solver to do stochastic optimization with them, right? The railroad tracks are now all the same gauge, right? So let me do one more thing here.
Let me just point out. So this is basically, you can then take this cell, now becomes a storage area for this powerful distribution information, that you can take this cell and use it in the rest of the Excel file, in your forecast, in your business plan, in your budget, and it replaces your single point estimate with a stochastic relationship with this distribution that basically randomly generates a number within the distribution to allows you to run multiple, thousands of scenarios. This is amazing stuff.
And more than that, watch this. I'm going to do a scatter plot of these. So I say, give me demand 1 versus demand 2. Oh my gosh, they're correlated. High demand 1 means high demand 2, right? So we captured all of that in here. Now let me go back to another thing. You sent me a CSV file the other night. And
yep, I generated a log normal looking like distribution, right, exactly, in model risk.
10,000 trials. It had 10,000 trials in it, okay? So let's watch what I do with that. I'm going back over here, and I'm going to use a CSV file. So the CSV file, it could have had, 20, 30 variables. Now I'm going to browse the files. There it is, forecast.csv. So I gave it the name of forecast. Oh, they're the first 10 trials. Remember those, Alex? Well, you probably don't, but that's what they were, right? And then let's do this. It was quite a skewed distribution. And so I'm going to make a graph panel to analyze this in terms of metalogs. And what I discover is, all right, so the metalog, I haven't really described it here, but it is the Taylor series of probability distributions. It'll fit darn near anything. And what we discover is this distribution is so skewed that I have to use a 9-term metalog. A 2-term, that's a dumb way to represent what really looks like that, right? So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to say, I'm going to go down and pick 9 terms, right? Then I'm going to create my output. I'm just going to convert it to a forecast. I'm converting it to the file. It's forecast.sitmath. It's a JSON file. There it is. Okay, I'm going to click on that, go back over to Excel, open a new sheet, go to Chance Calc, use whatever's on the clipboard. Oh, so what's on the clipboard now is a 3.0 library of whatever you generated in Spain the other day, Alex, right? And there it is. Look at that. And then I can use that in any sort of arithmetic. Okay. So you can see that it really
so I've for the sake of the kind of experiment, I've generated a random set of random variables which you converted into forecasts, but it could have been just historical observations, just a recording of historical observations. And you could have taken that and converted it into a distribution by fitting the best number of terms using the metalog, finding the kind of the best suitable distribution shape, and then converting it into a zip library, which is stored in a little bit of code, which can be inserted in any cell in any Excel. I mean, that is
it's not
just
only Excel.
mind-blowing.
You can insert it into Python. You can insert it into R. And by the way, one other thing here is that if you'd taken your historical data, it would have calculated the correlation between them if that's what you wanted, right? So, look, we're just starting out. The thing I showed you with that website is based on Python code. It's just sitting out at our GitHub, right? We want to help organizations do this. Our goal is to teach your organization to teach itself. It's a huge world out there. And I'll tell you, there are tremendous opportunities for companies that have a lot of data. I mean, for example, in the construction space, right? Oh, how long does it take to pour 150 yards of concrete?
What? Yeah, exactly. For each of the tasks, how long it takes for each of the tasks.
Well, and what are they doing now? The averages. Here's my average die again, 3.5 dots. No, guys, don't publish that. Publish the distributions and the correlations and so on. And so I think it just opens up a whole new industry. In fact, I like to call it, there was the Bronze Age, and then there was the Iron Age, and like the Industrial Age, and the Stone Age came first, right? Stone Age, Bronze Age, Iron Age, the Industrial Age, the Information Age. Well, now we're in the Chance Age. And I want to leave you with one thought, which is people are hesitant to get involved in this game. But I say, give chance a chance.
I love that ending. Thank you very much, Sam. Don't forget, ask questions, write comments underneath this video. Don't forget to donate. This is a special free event to support the victims of the war in Ukraine. And get on board, because this is such an amazing opportunity. And I don't want people to take away the message that this is for somehow sophisticated companies, large corporations that have a lot of data. This is for any business, any decision maker that wants to add or appreciate volatility in his decision making. You can start by adding only a couple of variables to your business plans, to your forecasts, by making them stochastic. You don't have to go all out and create multiple variables. And if the word correlation scares you, you can start with slow steps, because all of the tools are available. It's an add-on to Excel. It's the functionality within the Excel itself. The websites are available to generate all the necessary information for the company. So there's really no excuse not to at least try it. And if you face challenges along the way, well, you can ask Sam and the probabilitymanagement.org team, and there's a lot of information available online. I mean, Sam has been preaching exactly the same message for the last, I think, 3 years, maybe even 4 years now.
Well, but
at the Risk Awareness Week, I mean, you've been doing this for decades before that. But I mean, just with us, you've been doing it for such a long time.
But the message used to be, it's coming. Now the message is it's here. That's why the Chancification book is out now, because finally we got all the pieces to fit together in a way that we can do it on an industrial scale.
Totally.
And this with hundreds of variables in your organization.
Your first book is in the top 16 must-read books for any risk professional on the planet. But I think you have a special deal on this book as well.
Yes, we do. We're doing, I think, a giveaway with you. And in fact, there's a coupon code. If you purchase the Kindle version of the new book, John Wiley, the publisher, has given us, I think it's 30% off the original book if you don't have one. The two books really go hand in hand. The first one kind of gives you the theoretical underpinnings, and the second book refers back to the first one in a bunch of places. But the second one, if you were starting from scratch, you would start with the second one and then look back at the first. So perfect. Thank you so much, Alex.
Thanks, Sam.